Monday, November 11, the witness of Mary. 6 days before Passover, Jesus came to visit Mary, Martha, and their brother Lazarus, whom Jesus had raised to life. Simon, who had been healed of leprosy, hosted a feast in appreciation for what Jesus had done for him. Martha was serving, and Lazarus was sitting at the table with the guests. Let's read about this in John chapter 12, verses 1 to 8. 6 days before the Passover, Jesus came to Bethany, where Lazarus lived, whom Jesus had raised from the dead. Here a dinner was given in Jesus' honour. Martha served, while Lazarus was among those reclining at the table with him. Then Mary took about a pint of pure nard, an expensive perfume. She poured it on Jesus' feet and wiped his feet with her hair, and the house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume. But one of his disciples, Judas Iscariot, who was later to betray him, objected. "Why wasn't this perfume sold and the money given to the poor? It was worth a year's wages." He did not say this because he cared about the poor, but because he was a thief. As keeper of the money bag, he used to help himself to what was put into it. "Leave her alone," Jesus replied. "It was intended that she should save this perfume for the day of my burial. You will always have the poor among you, but you will not always have me." What was the significance of Mary's actions here? How was this a witness to who Jesus really was? Let's read those first 3 verses again. 6 days before the Passover, Jesus came to Bethany, where Lazarus lived, whom Jesus had raised from the dead. Here a dinner was given in Jesus' honour. Martha served, while Lazarus was among those reclining at the table with him. Then Mary took about a pint of pure nard, an expensive perfume. She poured it on Jesus' feet and wiped his feet with her hair, and the house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume. The perfume was very expensive, worth about a year's wages for the common labourer. Mary probably brought this gift as an expression of gratitude to the Saviour for the forgiveness of her sins and for the resurrection of her brother. She intended it to be used some day for the burial of Jesus. But then she heard that he would soon be anointed king. In that case, she would be the first to bring him honour. Mary probably did not intend for her gesture to be noticed, but John notes, "The house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume," in verse 3. Judas responded with a quick rebuke, stating that the perfume should have been sold and the proceeds given to the poor. Jesus immediately put Mary at ease by stating, "Let her alone. The poor you have with you always, but me you do not have always." That's verses 7 and 8. A recurring theme runs through the Gospel. Jesus knows what is in people. For instance, in John chapter 2, verses 24 to 25. But Jesus would not entrust himself to them, for he knew all people. He did not need any testimony about mankind, for he knew what was in each person. And John 6, verses 70 and 71. Then Jesus replied, "Have I not chosen you, the 12? Yet one of you is a devil." He meant Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot, who, though one of the 12, was later to betray him. And John chapter 13, verse 11, "For he knew who was going to betray him, and that was why he said not everyone was clean." And John 16 and verse 19. Jesus saw that they wanted to ask him about this, so he said to them, "Are you asking one another what I meant when I said, 'In a little while you will see me no more, and then after a little while you will see me'?" In this instance, at Simon's feast, Jesus knows what is in Judas. John is careful to point out who Judas is, a self-serving thief, we read in verse 6. He did not say this because he cared about the poor, but because he was a thief. As keeper of the money bag, he used to help himself to what was put into it. And then we read in Desire of Ages, page 570, the fragrant gift which Mary had thought to lavish upon the dead body of the Saviour, she poured upon his living form. At the burial, its sweetness could only have pervaded the tomb. Now it gladdened his heart with the assurance of her faith and love. And as he went down into the darkness of his great trial, he carried with him the memory of that deed, an earnest of the love that would be his from his redeemed ones forever. End of quote. And so to finish today, Jesus knew what was in the heart of Mary and the heart of Judas. He knows what's in your heart as well. What should this truth tell us about the need of Christ as our righteousness, transforming us and covering us as well? This lesson was read by Dr. Percy Harrold for Christian Services for the Blind. Sponsored by the Sabbath School Department and distributed through Hope Channel Australia, this podcast is also redistributed by Hope Channel Germany, Christian Record Services for the Blind. It is also available on SoundCloud and through multiple podcast distributors, including Apple iTunes. And you can listen and watch at the same time on YouTube. Remember, God is always faithful.